Welcome back to Lucky Frog Gaming. I'm your host, Crystal, and this is Joe.
And today we have something very special for you. Today we are interviewing Wesley Cone, creator, manufacturer, publisher, all things The Calling. Welcome to the show, Wesley.
Yeah, what's up? Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's just start off. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll start easy.
Yeah,
We'll give you a
so
softball question.
no, that's good. My name's Wesley. That's a good starting point, I figure. I
Yeah.
started Mere Pursuit back in 2016. That's the company that I created. I guess the company didn't exist until 2020, and back then it was known as Anthem Creations. I did a rebrand a couple years back when I moved to Iowa from North Carolina. I've got 3 games to date, technically 2 games. The goal is right, like I want to build out this multimedia based world, right? It is a big world building journey, right? It's not meant to be encapsulated by any one product. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That's amazing.
That is fantastic. So we're excited to bring part of this ever growing and expanding universe to the folks that are attending Geek Game Days. We're building out this universe, and you had these books. Like, what got you into board gaming specifically?
Yeah. I think the short version is, that we all grew up on games. And when I was in like middle school, Pokemon came out, and that was like, everybody's thing. My family never had the money to afford Pokemon cards, right? And so it was like, well, I'll just get index cards and make my own game. And so I did that for me and my brothers, and we had some fun.
Wow.
Throughout high school and college, I made games just for fun as well.
I love that story. That's so inspiring, right? Like that's exactly what you want to hear. So, kind of grew out of necessity and your creativity and wanting to be part of a community, and then, you growing that community as well and inviting others in. What an amazing story.
So, with the calling, how do you think this game is set apart from other games in the same genre?
Yeah, it's really funny. So people will be like, "Hey, so The Calling, like, it's a roguelike. So is it, like, is it Slay the Spire?" I'm like, "No, there this is not Slay the Spire." And I think you could speak to that a little bit more than I could, but there's not the deck mechanic, right? Like this is not a card play based game. Most of my experiences in video games, in terms of that, and I think that you'll see that a lot in The Calling, right? It feels like a video game. In fact, a lot of players will sit down and they go, "Wow, this is like a video game in board game form." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I would agree with that actually. Yeah,
yeah."
exactly. Were there inspirations in other games that you kind of wanted to bring in or incorporate into this game?
Yeah, you ask hard questions.
Yeah, we got
Good,
the
but good
softballs
ones.
out of the way easy. Now we're getting into the meat of it.
No, it's good. So, I'm just trying to kind of reflect back on when I originally did that roll and write experience, right? So it was I wanted to do something minimalistic, something that people could print out at home. I'd played some print and play games before, and so I was like, that seems reasonable to do.
Yeah.
I had made my other card games into print and play versions that people could print out and create cards and play with, originally. And so I was like, all right, well, let's figure out how to move forward with this game. And um, so I was like, well, I'll create this game, and what do we need? Well, we need somebody who can move, and we need a die, right? Like that makes sense. And so, you know,
Yeah.
I, I wanted movement, and I had like Super Mario in my head, and I was like, maybe I'll create like a Super Mario like experience. We're just gonna run, right? And we're gonna
Okay.
run, and we're gonna run, and we're gonna run. And then I was like, but you know what? I really like role playing games. I really like leveling up and getting experience and spending my experience. I don't want to get faster. Like I'm the guy when I play a game, I choose the fastest character I possibly can, right? And I think that a lot of people can relate.
Who would you say is your target audience for the calling?
Yeah, I'd say ideally, and this is don't misunderstand, because I didn't initially have a target audience. My target audience was gamers, right? And then I was like, well, you kind of have to pick a target audience, and I was like, well, I'm my target audience. And what am I? Well, I'm a dad with a kid, right? And so I'm like, dads with kids are my target audience, right? So like, if you're, but really, like, if you've grown up playing role playing games, if you've grown up playing roguelike games, if you've grown up playing these games where you run and suffer defeat, and then you grow and you learn some more, and your kids are just now starting to get into fandoms like you are, or like you were, and you still are, you're still into fandoms, right? And you're like, man, like, I want something that I can do with my kid. The difficulty level of the calling, even though it's a sprawling kind of tabletop game, right? It takes over a lot of space. The difficulty level really is like a light midweight level difficulty. Whether I create an expansion for the calling or not, while I still intend to create expand at least one expansion for Empyrean Hero, and maybe more than one, I don't want to commit to that for the calling currently. Right. It is a game unto itself. It is a spectacular game. It is well built, it is well crafted. It's got 5 years of time and energy put into it. It's got hundreds and hundreds of playtests put into it. It's got, I had to kill so many parts of my game to improve the game, right? And so even the building process itself was roguelike. Yeah.
So share a little bit of insight. 'Cause I mean, obviously, throughout those 5 years, I mean, you mentioned like there was parts of the game that maybe you had to let go of,
Yeah.
and the community feedback. What were maybe some of those like impactful things that like you thought going into it, like, oh, this is for sure going to be something that you want, and then maybe didn't make the cut, or based on community feedback and playtesting that you ended up having to cut or scale back that kind of surprised you?
Well, originally I was going to have like alternate player turns, right? Okay, when is this person going to finish their turn? It's taking forever. So the gameplay itself shouldn't feel like it takes forever, right? It shouldn't. If it's somebody thinking, like, when it's not their turn, that's one thing. But like if you're sitting there and your turn like feels like that, that's a problem. And so what I found was going simultaneous on gameplay was actually the key to overcoming that challenge, right? And so every step is simultaneous. Everybody moves at one time. Everybody is going to have their encounter at the same time. Everybody's going to level up at the same time, and then the suit is going to chase us all down the main alley, and we better survive or farm death. But that's a different issue altogether.
What is the most enjoyable or interesting mechanic or aspect to the calling, like that you were the most excited about developing?
Man, that's a hard question. So I mean, I like the running, like that's fun, but I don't know that I'd call it like my favorite, right? It is
Yeah.
awesome. I actually had to put spots on the side alleys every 5 spaces to make the math easier, right? Or the counting easier. It's not even math, it's just counting. And so it's like, let's count by fives. It'll make life easier on everybody. I like the idea of like dying and living and coming back with like more things, but then balancing that out against the idea of dying too much, right? So that can be fun. In the level up functionality, which leveling up is something I want to do in like every game I ever create. Like that's just a desire, right? You can't do it in everything, but you want to. But that progression system, right, matters to me.
Yeah.
I want a progression system. And so in the level up, there's one option for dreaming, right? And so when you dream, you gain new feat cards, right? Which are essentially like in-game goal cards that are private. And if you dream, you can get more of them, right? And so I started integrating some of my favorite mechanics, and I think that really my favorite is a card that's added to the deck of feat cards, which says, hey, if you basically suffer 8 defeats, right? If you suffer 8 deaths, then for every feat card you have in your hand at the end of the game, you get a point, right? The downside is that every death that you suffered, right, you lose a point for. And so there's this point where you're like balancing out like this idea of like how much can I take defeat and use it to my advantage, or balancing it out against like on the flip side, it's going to cost me points versus like, do I dream? And if I dream too much, it's actually going to be my entire downfall, right? But if I get it right, it'll pay off, because for every feat card that's not accomplished, you actually lose a point as well, right? And so
So is there any creator, I mean, out there now that you would, like to work with, or who you're actively following, like what they're doing?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. So, I actually helped with the development of Deliverance, the game of spiritual warfare by Andrew Lowen, Lowen Games. I helped with the editing process of the content of the second one. He gave a shout out to me as if I was going to, and we had just talked about it. So I'm still kind of waiting to hear to see if that thing works out yet or not. Andrew Harmon of Harmon Games is building out a massive game called Parable's Kingdom, and it's an epic Euro, just absolutely beautiful. And I would he actually does my videos for my Kickstarters. You're by the way, you're gonna really enjoy the video for the calling.
Yeah.
He sent me the rough draft today, and I was like, man, this is like final draft mode in my head. Like it's spectacular. And so I'm really excited to see uh how people respond when they see that video. But like he's a designer and he thinks in a way that's just very logical and procedural, and he thinks through the details of things. And I've gotten to help him with playtesting his games a lot too, and so just trying to give feedback there. Stonemeyer I would definitely enjoy working with. I like I said, his games are some of my favorite. I'm just kind of looking at
I
some
feel
of the
like that's
other
like
games.
that would be like
Yeah.
a film person going like, I would like to work with Spielberg.
I
Like,
want to work with all these people.
he's like, that'd be like, so, with this, what's the best way for fans and interested parties? How best can they follow? Can they interact? Can they be a part of the calling and, everything that you're working
Here's the pre-launch page. Maybe there it is. It's called The Calling, a roguelike game. It is up to 100 followers on the nose. That's within about 2 weeks' time of the pre-launch page existing, without any paid ads. So something worth noting is I'm that indie, right? So everything that I create, pays for itself essentially. The backers pay for the projects and then they get the rewards of that. People go to the Kickstarter page, which is kickstarter.com/project/do Wesley Cone slash the calling, a roguelike game with dashes between each word, which is incredibly complicated to say.
on?
Or go to Kickstarter and look up the calling, a roguelike game.
Well, and
It'll give
we will have a link below in the description of this
awesome.
video, for
Yeah.
sure. Um,
Just hit that notify me button, right? That not only does the notify me on launch button, make sure that you get an email. I think it's a handful of days before, and then the day of the launch, or 24 hours before the launch, or something to that effect. That
correct.
Kickstarter will send out themselves. I always deliver on time, and for 4 out of the 5 projects that succeeded, I delivered way ahead of schedule. Like
I certainly appreciate that. And I can tell you, hopefully, it'll be interesting to see how high we can get that number next week at Geek Game Days. Again, we will have this game live and demoable, hands on. We'll have some information sheets. And obviously, we will be highly encouraging you to follow.
I just say, the calling a roguelike game is a great game. I think that it's for most people. Of all the people I've play tested and demoed with, out of every 100, I'd say there's one or two tops that like are just like, this is not a game for me. Like this is not my style of gameplay. But the other 98, 99 are like, yes, like this is so much fun. Right, games that bring in kind of these new kind of unique twists on things and turns, right? I tried to do that with this idea of farming death, right? Like, and treating that as a thing that I can grow out of, and right, these kind of edge case concepts matter, right? Like they create flavor for the game world that I think is desperately needed. I think that unique ideas from people from different backgrounds and kind of worldviews and cultures, like it adds flavor, right? It makes things more
Yeah.
interesting, and I certainly have my own kind of worldview, right? Like I'm a pastor, right? And so but like there's this point where like we learn to love people, and like we learn to value people and to find the treasures in people, and that's a really big deal to me.
Yeah. No. Well, thank you so much again for your time.
And giving us the opportunity to have one of your demo games to present at Geek Game Days.
Yeah, I mean, we are truly honored, to be able to represent this. We hope that we do it well and that we can help grow your ever growing following. All right, Lucky Frog fam. Well, that is going to do it for this exclusive interview and preview of conversation with Wesley. Again, Geek Game Days, August 1st to 3rd. This will be live. I'm sure we'll be doing some additional playthroughs and content.
And it goes live on Kickstarter on September 1st.
September 1st, be second. You're not going to be first because you're not beating me. I mean, you can try, but I'm going to be first in line. I'm hitting my notify. I'm going to be there. So I hope to see you on September 1st, battling that. But as always, stay lucky, stay gaming.